The lipstick stain was a vulgar, crimson smear on the crisp white cotton of my husband's collar. It wasn't the shade of a timid woman. It was the color of a declaration of war. Alicia, stood in our master closet, the size of a small apartment, holding the evidence in my trembling hand. The scent of his cologne, something expensive and woody. He'd started wearing recently, mixed with the faint, floral perfume of a stranger for 7 years. I had built a life with David. I had stepped back from my own burgeoning interior design firm to support his rise at his father's company. I managed our sprawling Boston brownstone, hosted flawless dinner parties for his clients, and wore the title of Mrs. Davidson like a perfectly tailored coat. But underneath, I felt the seams straining. The late nights had become more frequent. The business trips to New York more opaque. Our joint account, which I used for household expenses, always seemed to be dipping lower than it should. When I'd asked, David had sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. The market's volatile, Alicia. You wouldn't understand. Just trust me. Standing there with the lipstick-stained shirt, I realized trust was a currency I had run out of. The confrontation was a masterclass in gaslighting. You're being paranoid, David said, his voice a smooth, practiced calm. It must have been from that charity gala. One of the overenthusiastic volunteers hugged me. You know how those things are. He looked me dead in the eye, his expression a mask of wounded sincerity. And for a terrifying moment, I almost believed him. That was his gift. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew thorns. A week later, under the guise of organizing tax documents, I accessed our older financial records. I'm not sure what I was looking for, but my designer's eye for detail caught it. For the last 3 years, on the 15th of every month, a $2,500 payment was sent to an account listed under C. Miller. It wasn't a business. The memo line simply read, "Support." My blood ran cold. Support. It sounded so benign. But the timing, the secrecy, it screamed of another life. I hired a discreet private investigator. Find out who C. Miller is, I instructed, my voice shaking only slightly. The answer came a week later, not in a report, but in a series of photographs. A beautiful woman with kind eyes and dark hair, picking up a little boy from a school in a quiet suburb. The boy, who looked to be about 7, was the clincher. He had David's smile, his same way of tilting his head when he laughed. His son, David had a son. The betrayal was so profound it was almost peaceful. The life I thought I had simply ceased to exist. It was a facade, a beautifully decorated set for a play I hadn't known I was in. I went straight to the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city, a woman named Isabella Rossi, whose reputation for dismantling wealthy, deceitful men was legendary. Let's build a case, Isabella said, her eyes sharp. We need more than photos. We need financials. We need proof of dissipation. For a month, I played my part perfectly. I was the supportive wife, asking about his day, feigning interest in his deals. All the while, Isabella's forensic accountant was dissecting our finances, uncovering a network of hidden transfers and a secret savings account David had been funneling money into. He wasn't just a cheat. He was a financial traitor, systematically robbing our shared future. The day the final financial report landed in my inbox, Isabella called. We're ready. The papers are drawn up. He's going to be served at his office tomorrow. I felt a grim sense of closure. I was ready to take my life back. The next morning, I was in my kitchen, the manila envelope containing my freedom sitting on the counter. I was rehearsing what I would say when he inevitably stormed home. A mix of fury and fear churning in my gut. The doorbell rang, its chime slicing through the tense silence. I opened the door, and my carefully reconstructed world shattered for the second time. There stood the woman from the photographs. In person, she was younger than I'd imagined, her face etched with a weariness that no one her age should possess. And beside her, holding her hand, was the little boy, Leo. My breath caught. He was a perfect miniature of David, down to the little dimple in his chin. Can I help you? I managed, my voice a whisper. The woman Chloe met my gaze. her own eyes a turbulent mix of shame and defiance. "I'm looking for David. I'm Chloe Miller. This is his son, Leo." She took a shaky breath. "The payments have stopped. He's blocked my number, my email. I lost my job at the hospital 2 months ago. We have nowhere else to go." The pieces of David's deception didn't just fall into place. They avalanched. The support payments, the drained accounts. He wasn't just preparing to leave me. He was abandoning them too. I looked from Chloe's desperate face to Leo's confused one, and then down at the envelope on my counter. "This wasn't just my battle anymore. Please," I said, my voice stronger now, stepping aside. "Come in my sun-drenched kitchen over coffee that neither of us drank." The full story tumbled out. David had been with her for 8 years, a parallel life in a modest apartment across town. He'd promised her a future, a family, spinning tales of a cold, emotionally barren wife, me whom he was only staying with for business reasons. He said once he got his inheritance and the big promotion, he'd leave, Chloe said, a tear finally escaping. He said we'd be a real family. But the promotion came and went, and the lies just got bigger. "The last time I saw him, he said you were pregnant and he couldn't leave you." I flinched. The cruelty of that lie took my breath away. He had used the ghost of a child I'd always wanted to justify abandoning his own living son. I slid the divorce papers across the marble counter toward her. "I'm filing these today. David has been stealing from us both. He's been hiding money, lying to you, and betraying me in every way imaginable." I looked her directly in the eye. "I have the evidence to destroy him in court. But I can't do it alone. He'll try to discredit you, to say you're a gold digger. Help me and I will make sure you and Leo are protected. You'll get the child support you deserve and more." It was a gamble, but I saw the moment her shame hardened into a steely resolve. She was a mother fighting for her child. We were now allies in a war we never asked for. The following weeks were a whirlwind of clandestine strategy. Our war room was the back corner of a quiet cafe, far from David's usual haunts. Isabella Rossi, a force of nature in a designer suit, laid out the battle plan with Chloe's testimony. "We have proof of the long-term affair and the intentional creation of a separate family, which speaks to the dissipation of marital assets," Isabella explained, her laptop open. "The support payments, while noble in theory, were hidden, proving fraudulent intent. Alicia, your forensic accounting shows he diverted over $200,000 of marital funds. We built a case that was airtight. We had timelines, bank statements, sworn affidavits from the PI, and now a co-plaintiff of sorts. David, arrogant and oblivious, was still playing the devoted husband. Unaware that the ground beneath him was turning to quicksand, he was served at his office. The fallout was immediate and vicious. He came home that night, his face a thundercloud. "How dare you?" he roared, throwing the papers on the floor. "After everything I've given you. This is that lawyer poisoning your mind. You'll get nothing, Alicia. The prenup you signed, the prenup protects my premarital assets." "David," I interrupted, my voice chillingly calm, "and it has an infidelity clause. A rather costly one for you." His face went pale. He hadn't known I knew about that. He sputtered, trying to regain control. "You have no proof of anything." "I have proof of C. Miller," I said softly. "And Leo." The color drained from his face completely. The mask was off and the terrified, cornered man underneath was laid bare. "Alicia, please, you don't understand. She trapped me. It was a mistake." "Get out," I said, pointing to the door. "Your lawyer can talk to my lawyer." The divorce proceedings were less a negotiation and more a surrender. David's lawyer, expecting to bully a hysterical wife, was completely unprepared for the legal onslaught Isabella unleashed. When Chloe took the stand, her quiet, factual testimony was more damning than any scream of rage. She presented her own records of promises made and broken, of a little boy asking when his daddy was coming home. The judge, a stern woman with no tolerance for financial deception, was scathing in her final ruling. The prenup was enforced, but not in the way David had planned. Due to his egregious fraud and intentional dissipation of assets, he was penalized heavily. I was awarded the brownstone. Free and clear, I received a substantial alimony package for a period of 10 years. He was ordered to reimburse the $200,000 he had hidden, plus penalties. Most importantly, the judge ordered David to pay Chloe retroactive child support calculated at his true income level from the day Leo was born, amounting to a staggering sum, plus future support and the full establishment of a college trust fund. David wasn't just bruised, he was financially and reputationally annihilated. The story, of course, leaked. The powerful Davidson heir, brought low by his own duplicity. His father forced him out of the company. A year later, I'm sitting on the porch of a beautiful, modern glass Inwood house I designed myself, overlooking the sea in Cape Cod. The silence is no longer empty. It's peaceful. My interior design firm is thriving, bigger than I ever dreamed. Fueled by the settlement and my reclaimed confidence, Chloe and Leo live a few towns over. We aren't friends who have coffee, but we are connected by a bond of shared survival. We text on holidays. She's back on her feet, working as a head nurse, and Leo is a happy, bright kid. He sends me crayon drawings sometimes, signed with his lopsided signature. I heard through the grapevine that David is working a mid-level job at a firm out of state. A ghost of his former self. As I watch the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, I sip my wine and feel a profound sense of peace. The life I had with David was a beautiful blueprint for a prison. The life I built after was a design all my own. I learned that sometimes the most beautiful structures are raised from the rubble of the old ones. And that family isn't always about blood or vows, it's about who stands with you in the storm.